Yeah.
Okay, I think let's go back to about what we were talking about coping with situations. When people are fighting and things are escalating, where do you put yourself? Do you put yourself in the front, or do you go to yourself to the back? Do you want to be part of the solution, or do you want to be part of the problem? That is what every single one of you's choice is. Okay? Yellow, red, blue. They're together, right? Do we function as people together or apart? Do we live alone or do we live together?
Live together.
Together, right? Okay. So, a way of going to the front is by holding your partner's hand, not giving them a fist in the face. Right? You can't take away a life because you do not give that life. Peace is the very answer to our problems. But at the same time, what happens in the world, sometimes governments are so oppressive that the people never have a voice. They have no way to speak. And you as the youth, you have to bring a new culture into the world. We've been fighting and warring. And that's not getting us anywhere. The numbers start from 4 to 8 to 10 to 12. Right? You know how it goes in a revolution. Okay? So you have to be the one who brings it down, to hold the other one's hand. Okay? In your everyday life. In your everyday life, it has to be part of your culture. Okay? Understand me? Any other questions, any other suggestions about how to cope in stressful situations in general, in situations like this? What's another way to build and not break? Anybody?
Also, like as you said, like, be a part of the solution.
Yes, not part of the problem.
Like, even though you wanna help, don't get away by other people. Like, stay true to what you believe instead of going to fight and going to do things in a violent way.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Be the little individual who wants to do things good.
Exactly. And it starts with just one person. Because that person is like a chain, you know. You link up, you link up, you link up, and that chain becomes something very, very strong. Anyone else with some good suggestions? Anything, it can be big, it can be small, a positive thing, day-to-day things, yes? Anyone?
And the things the police are doing, that's things we see daily and hear daily on news, on the little news that's not censored. We hear that and we see it. Most policemen will ask you for bribes when you pass, and they'll stop you for really dumb things that or don't exist or you're not doing, and then they'll just say, "Me da tal refresquito." That's just basically them asking you for a bribe.
So now we wanted to talk about I wanted to mention something that was happening in our city, because when the protests go on, instead of promoting the violence, some of the people would go and they would in their cars take this bidones de agua, these big water bottles, and they would go to the people, because they would stay the whole day in the sun, from the morning. I know they would start from 4 a.m. to late hours of the day, and some people would go and bring them water, bring them food, because they know they're really protesting hard, and they would go and do that to help them, and that's a kind gesture. So
I would like to add something for some of you. In the video, the one of Carlos Baute, did you see the guy who had the ball head and they were hitting him with a brass knuckles? First of all, I know that guy, and second of all, that guy, when he was captured, the police asked the family for $8,000 for him to be released. And if not, they were going to put him in jail
For no reason.
for no reason at all.
Another thing is that with the news, is that a lot of the chavistas, so these government followers, are lower class people, and so they don't have access to a lot of the television, and a lot of the news stations that talk about the problems in the government and the problems with the opposition and the fighting are ones that you have to pay for. The shows that they show for the cable, the free, the ones that the lower class people can access, don't show the problems happening in the government. They are all like pro-government shows that they are airing.
I don't know too much about this problem, but I see that what they're fighting for, the problem, there's nothing wrong with it, but the way they're doing it, it could be too violent or too physical. So I think that we could, Venezuelans could just find them protesting.
I agree.
They could do strikes.
In a lot of cases, sometimes that's correct. The thing is that a lot of times it's not just the protesters. It's usually the police that start.
Or the tupamaros that go on
The
motorcycles,
paramilitary.
start shooting to the crowd and just chaos
Like
breaks out.
sometimes out of nowhere, I'm sleeping in my house and you start hearing gunshots outside.
Or maybe you could speak with somebody who's in power or somebody who's in the know.
So yeah, what we want to do is like to spread the word, not only just like in Latin America, but the world, so they can help us and like to know what's happening and like.
The biggest thing is to create awareness, because in Venezuela, you don't really know what's happening if you turn on the television. You have to look outside your window. And what you see in television here could be either biased or exaggerated or just not true. So we want to spread out the real message outside.
It's hard.
Yeah, I would also like to add something. It's VTV, one of the free channels. And after there was the opposition leader, Leopoldo Lopez, the police, the government told him to surrender himself, and they were gonna get him to jail. And so he did. He surrendered himself in a march, and there were a lot of people behind him. And afterwards, in that channel VTV, what they published was that the government saved that opposition leader Leopoldo Lopez from the violent marches.
Yes, they were saying it was for his safety.
Yeah.
So what we wanted to do, we have a list of the students that have been killed so far, and we wanted to ask you for a minute of silence while we show you the pictures of them, just to sort of honor that they fought for what
We have 28 people up to
they
now.
died for what they fought for.
Thank you.
Thank you. I wanted to mention that some of the people there, they died because in the guarimbas, sometimes they put wires to keep the cars from passing, and the motorbikes don't see them, and it cuts
And
off.
they cut off their head.
Um,
So just spread the word. Tell
And-
people what's going on in Venezuela.
Any questions?
I like the main thing, just work all as a community, not for an individual.
Don't let this happen. Don't let differences separate you from other people who you love and people who you share stuff with.
Yes.
Do you know some of the causes of this kind of
Yes.
I do.
In fact.
Well, in Venezuela in 2003, the government began a currency exchange controls so that nobody has access to US dollars. And that devastated our productivity because we have to import certain raw materials to produce some things. And since they couldn't do that, many companies went broke, others were nationalized and weren't put to produce at the same level. So the simple law of supply and demand, there was too much demand and not much supply. So
Also, the government has expropriated many farms and other places where food was grown, and they're not working anymore. So we don't really produce any of these.
And another thing is that sometimes they're making the prices for some of the products. So like sometimes they'll make a price for the sugar, and the stores have to sell it at that price.
yeah, price regulations are
So-
really low prices so that
And
anybody could
they
go
make
and
it
buy.
low so that the lower class people can buy it, but then that also causes the company making it to lose the money. So then they
go
have to
broke.
close down or like leave because they don't have enough money and they're losing money by staying in the country.
And it's not just food, though. Like, for example, not long ago, they put the price for electrodomestics way down, and people started...
People went crazy and went into electrodomestic stores. So
They bought out all the
Store
TVs
owners-
and the air conditioners.
store owners don't want to import anything else anymore. So we also have a lack of like phones or TVs.
There's also
Also
information
clothes.
circulating right now that this markets are running out of stock. So if this continues, they're just not going to be able to...
And also newspapers companies don't have
Paper.
cannot import the paper for the press. So that's like censorship indirectly.
And their major export petroleum they sell for far less than it costs to process it.
Or they give it away.
So they're basically giving away their major export.
Did you know that it costs you roughly 1 cent, US cent per liter to fill up gasoline?
Not per liter, in total.
Cents.
In total. It's like, it can be 3 bolivares, which is nothing. And
Like the whole tank of your
the whole tank of your car.
So the nationalized oil company of Venezuela, it's actually on its way to being broke. And that's the only income that we have because we devastated our exports. We no longer have tourism because many tourists have been killed because
Also,
of our
relations
insecurity.
with many countries aren't great. Like, so there's nowhere to turn to.
Any other questions or concerns?
Yeah. Yep.
5 minutes.
Okay. So we might have wanted to talk about a little bit like what we have seen as individuals, just not even being part of things, just what we see on the streets in general. Yes, question?
You all live in Caracas, right?
Yes.
Well, personally, my experience has been I live in the outside of Caracas, so it's like a suburb, so I don't hear the gunshots or all those things. But I do have lots of problems trying to get to school every morning because they close the major streets and entrances to the city, so it's been really hard for me to get to school. And I've seen many people like protesting around it. That's my experience so far.
With my experience, like to get to school, I have to go out of my house like at 4 in the morning to just go to school, and to come back to my house, we last like 3 hours to get to my house.
And normally, how long would it take you to?
Normally, like 15 minutes.
I live right next to the school, and I have to pass through El Barrio. And it usually takes me about 5 minutes, and it lately been taking me 1 hour and a half. So, and I live 5 minutes from the school.
I am not from Venezuela. I'm Colombian, and I'm new in the country. So, but it's hard to see how, like, people and the situation. Even though I'm not Venezuelan, like I feel like, yeah, for the country. So it's really hard to see this because Colombia is like next to it, and even though they're so close, like the situation is so different, and it's hard to see that. Like, I didn't think that was real when I saw that in the news, but now that I've seen it like through my window and stuff like that, like it's hard to see that.
I actually have like a lot of people that I know that are very involved in many things, and having to deal with not knowing whether I'm ever gonna see cousins or uncles again is very difficult for me. Or like going to bed at night not knowing how many people are gonna die while you're sleeping or be hurt. And like, for example, my neighborhood, a lot of the pictures that of the streets that were blocked, they're my neighborhood. It's Plaza del Este because it's a very opposition neighborhood, and like sometimes we're just driving past and we see these huge fires and things. And I mean, it's very interesting to watch a lot of the times because you read about these things in history textbooks and you see them in the news and you never really get it. Like you never really get into it and know what it really is. And experiencing something like this, it's like I just moved, I'm Venezuelan, but I just moved back. And I like you always see it from a distance. Like it's something opposite that happens to other people and you don't have to think about. But it's very difficult.
It could eventually happen to you or to anyone you know.
Or like I have been to a lot of protests, and like it's really like it gives you a very good feeling to see so many people coming together and singing the same songs and walking at the same pace and wearing the same colors, because you think, wow, these people, they all believe the same thing. And even it doesn't matter if they were red or if they were blue, you always see them and you see like they're really fighting just for peace. They just want their country and they're trying different ways of getting it. And I mean it's a very interesting experience.
No, so many of the people who died are like college students, or some protestants were even like our age. Like there was one who was actually born in 1998, so that would be even younger than some of us. So imagine the mothers, the fathers, maybe their brothers, their family having to cope with losing someone who was just starting to live.
Or like I've gotten calls from people that are like, because it's fine when you go in the morning, but in the afternoon it gets bad. So people that are there.
Thank you for listening to
Thank
our
you.
presentation.
Those of you who got flags, if you could kind of go up there, we'd like to take a picture. Everybody